Hi everybody, Sean Barlow here, and today I'm going to demonstrate for you how to change a flat tire on a vehicle using the proper safety techniques, equipment, and procedures. Now, I've been working on cars for a very long time, since I was roughly 12 years old, when my father sent me out to change his brake pads when I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. He just gave me the tools and the equipment and said, go change these. And since then, I've worked on literally hundreds of cars. I've built a couple of hot rods. I'm currently working on one right now. And it's always been important to me to understand the basics. So changing tires, oil, etc. And I'd like to pass that knowledge on to you. So let's take a couple minutes to talk about the safety techniques that you'll need in order to change a flat tire. So first and foremost, when you're changing a tire, you want to make sure that you're away from traffic. So preferably in your driveway, gas station, just anywhere as safe as possible. Secondly, you want to make sure you're on flat, level ground. And thirdly, once you get the car in the air, which we will talk about in the procedures portion, make sure that you don't put your body in between the ground and the car, which means don't put your legs under it, arms, anything of that nature. And lastly, you want to make sure that you have something to block the wheels in the back or front, which we will also talk about in procedures. That way the car doesn't have any chance to roll in either direction. So now that we've talked about safety, let's get into the equipment you're going to need to get this job done. So obviously you're going to need a properly inflated tire. You're going to need a floor jack, a bottle jack, or a scissor jack, which will most likely be what comes with your vehicle. You'll also need a jack stand and something to chock the wheels with. And you'll also need something to take the lug nuts off with, which will either be the equipment supplied in your vehicle's trunk or a four-way. Okay, so now that we've covered the safety techniques and the equipment you're going to need to get through this job, let's move on into the actual procedure itself.
So now that we've made it through the safety techniques and the equipment needed, let's get into changing the actual tire. So first things first, I've parked my car on a level surface and I'm going to chock the wheels. I'll be using a wood block, and what I'm going to do is place it in the opposite corner from the tire that I'm working on. In this case, I'm working on the front passenger side tire, so the block would go behind the rear driver's side tire. The next step, I'm going to use my four-way to just loosen the lug nuts, not taking them all the way off, just breaking them loose. At the jack underneath the jacking point. Bring it over here. Okay. Now you only want to jack it up high enough to where the tire that you're working with is no longer touching the ground. And then you want to find a place for your jack stand. Now this can be anywhere solid along the frame or the suspension components. So right now I'm going to take a look here and see where I need to put it. What the jack stand does is just relieves the pressure from the jack, which is on wheels, and gives us a firmer base to work with. Now the next step is I'm going to completely remove the lug nuts from the tire. Lug nuts are all removed. We need to place them somewhere where they won't get lost. In this case, I'm going to put them in my pocket. And then we remove the tire from the vehicle. Next we bring in our replacement tire and just place it back on the vehicle without the lug nuts. Next we're going to take the lug nuts and put them back on the studs just by hand. Now we're going to take our four-way and snug up the lug nuts, meaning we're not going to tighten them all the way down, just tight enough to where the wheel is pressed firmly into place on the vehicle. Now that we have our lug nuts snugly in place, we can go ahead and lower the vehicle, which means we're going to jack the vehicle back up just a notch or two, remove our jack stand, and then lower the jack all the way back down. Our next step is going to be to tighten the lug nuts all the way. Now at this point, what you need to remember is to go every other lug nut. So you tighten this one, skip this one, tighten this one, and now tighten the alternate two. If you have 5 or 6 lugs, you can still do this in the same fashion. just by skipping around. Just make sure that you get them all tightened. So a good general rule of thumb to follow after replacing a tire is that after 25 miles of driving, you want to double check and make sure your lug nuts are all tightened up.
And that's that. So over the course of my demonstration on how to change a flat tire, we've discussed safety techniques, equipment, and the actual procedure for changing the tire itself. Now, over the course of my 21 years of working on vehicles, I can absolutely say that learning the basics like this is the most important thing that you can do. Now, if you need more information, please go to www.bridgestonetire.com and follow their links through Tread and Trend, Driver's Ed, and into how to change a flat tire. There you'll find a much more in-depth video on how to do this same thing, but with a little more background and a little more time to get used to it. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed my video. I hope you all have a great week. Bye!